A little while later, I saw Bob trying to sneak out of our house. What was he doing here? I asked my mom. She said, nothing, just trying to help me fix something upstairs. Don't worry about it. Ooh, can he fix it?
Bob the Builder, can he fix it?
A few weeks later, my brother and I were playing outside when we saw Sherry, the wife from next door, angrily stomp over to our door and start ringing the bell, yelling, "Get out here, Donna. I know you're f***ing my husband." Welcome back to Delve Deck Stories. Today we are reading some crazy neighbor stories. Our first story is from Andrew, and it's "What's the most annoying neighbor you've ever had?" from the original deck. I felt like we were being watched by the creepy old lady next door.
You definitely were being watched by the creepy old lady next door. You are her entertainment.
Yeah.
Put on a show for Bertha. Don't be shy.
When my girlfriend Talia and I first moved in together, we got this crappy apartment in downtown St. Louis. The apartment itself sucked, but it was cheap and close to where we both worked. Our next door neighbor was this old woman who seemed like she had probably lived there since it was built. Talia would always try to be nice to her and say hi if they saw each other in the halls, but she refused to smile or return the kindness. We knew that the walls were pretty thin because we could hear all of our other neighbors, so we tried our best to be respectful of noise coming from our TV and never had people over. All in all, I think we were pretty good neighbors. Even though the apartment was shitty, Talia was determined to make this space a home. She loves interior design and was adding all sorts of artwork, rugs, and other decorations to brighten up the space. Then, one day, she proposed painting one of the walls. The walls were this ugly off-white color, and she thought a light blue might brighten things up and fit well with the aesthetic we had. I agreed that painting would be a fun project, and we decided we'd go to the hardware store that weekend to pick a color. Then, a few days later, I was coming home from work and saw the old woman in the hall. I gave her a half smile and kept walking. Then I hear her say behind me, "You aren't allowed to paint."
Ooh.
I turned and looked at her. I'd never heard her speak before and thought maybe I had misheard. "Excuse me? Painting isn't allowed. It's in the lease." I was like, okay, thanks for the heads up, and then turned around. "If I find out you're painting, I will have to tell the management. I don't want to be an accomplice to your crimes."
Technically, you can paint. You just have to paint the wall back.
Yeah. Or you like
An accomplice to your crimes. Lady, sit the down.
This
Calm
also is
down.
like, how long has this woman been there? Has she been there longer than management? You know?
She came with the building.
She is management.
Yeah, maybe.
She flips a wig and is suddenly like,
Now I was annoyed. How did she even know we were planning on painting? So I asked if she was listening to us. "It's not my fault if I overhear things when you're always shouting," she grumbled at me. This was complete bullshit. We weren't shouters in general, and we certainly weren't having a conversation about painting at an abnormal volume. I told her we'd try to be quieter because I wasn't sure how else to get out of the conversation, but that wasn't the last time she creepily listened to us.
She's got a glass or like a stethoscope up
Yes.
against the wall. She's like,
A stethoscope.
even better. She snuck in and dropped little recording bugs, and she's
Oh,
listening
she
in
might
her
have
apartment.
everything
everyone's
bugged.
yeah.
That'd be so. Listen, if I were truly unhinged and old, I would do that just because I'm nosy and bored.
This
I know it's a
video
crime.
is going to surface in like 50
They're like, this
years.
did not age well.
And I mean, if you think about it, no one would suspect the old lady who lives in the building. She's like, "Oh, I just need to get something out of
That's
the
what I'm saying.
room."
This is what I'm saying. Like, women
She's
would
like,
be
"Dup,
really
dup, dup,
great
dup, dup."
gang members. We'd be great
Yeah,
spies. We'd be
I'm reading a
great
book
gang
about
leaders.
this. One day, Talia was leaving for work. She was a middle school Spanish teacher and had to share the elevator with our neighbor. The woman told Talia that she was going to call the school district and tell them what she had been saying about one of her students the night before. She told her what she was saying was unprofessional and that she couldn't sit by and do nothing about teachers committing crimes.
I want to know, what state is this happening in?
St. New
St.
Orleans?
Louis?
Wait,
I don't
So
know.
Missouri?
I'm trying to, because when you live in your home, you're under the assumption that you have privacy.
Yeah.
So if you're having conversations, no one can record you, no one can overhear
This
what you
isn't a
say.
crime.
And also, like, in some states, I don't know about Missouri, but in some states, there's a two-party consent.
The woman was obsessed with calling minor things crime. Talia was really freaked out and upset, even though nothing came from it, and complaining about one of your problem students isn't a crime. If it were, we'd have no more teachers. We eventually became friends with some of the other people in the building and learned that not only did she listen to all of the neighbors, but she also kept tabs on when people were leaving and what everyone was up to.
How did she do that? I'm impressed.
She's just staring through the window.
Yeah.
This old bird's got a catalog. She's got
Yeah.
a punch in, punch out system.
They're all bugged.
Yeah.
I swear to God.
Some of them were convinced she had files on all of us. Apparently, she even discovered that a previous tenant was having an affair and outed her to her husband.
Okay, that's epic.
This woman is up in everyone's
this is
business.
Like some Gestapo.
Since she'd been there forever and the building management was pretty terrible to begin with, all complaints about her were ignored. After the elevator incident, we started playing loud music whenever we wanted to have conversations that were meant to be private. Since there was no stopping her, we just had to find ways to prevent her from snooping until we eventually moved. I hated that place so much. No, you need hobbies when you retire.
You should have stalked her back, dude.
Yeah.
Missed I saw you went to Kmart today. It'd be a shame if someone took your wheelchair when you went to the restroom. Get her back.
Our next story is from Lauren, and it's what's the wildest plot twist you've ever experienced in real life from the All Swim Beach Ball? We thought we got a normal invite to a party, but we had no idea what we were walking into. So I went on a cruise semi-recently and was so excited to visit so many cool islands and experience the ocean in a new way. When my husband and I were making our way to our assigned cabin, I saw our cruise neighbors going in as well. We said hello, were very polite, and went about our day. Later, when I came back to the cabin, I saw our neighbors leaving theirs, and they had put an upside-down pineapple on their door.
Whenever you've got a couple or whatever, and you're like, I went to a
Can't
party.
trust couples.
Man,
Is this a real awareness that you guys have in your 30s? Is any couple could be a swinger, and if they went to a party, you're going to think they were swingers?
I met swingers in my 20s as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't. So I'm wondering.
I think you can also probably go to places that are more prone to being like a spot where you would meet.
Okay. Not like a coffee shop that has like.
No, but typically like, there's
Yeah,
like
a coffee
spots in
shop.
LA that I'm sure you could search for. It's like, oh, this is like a bar, and you can go there, and it's where you would like meet other couples who are looking for a third.
We do improv.
Oh, okay. See, that makes more sense.
I thought it was silly, and as I said hello to them, I very casually said that I liked their door decor. The two of them looked at each other, smiled, and thanked me in what I would consider a slightly flirty manner. As the cruise went on, we ran into them from time to time and always had solid rapport, especially since we'd been on this boat for 3 weeks. That's a
Damn.
long time.
That's a
No
voyage.
wonder people are swinging. Jeez. Our neighbors asked us if we wanted to join them at the boat's steakhouse, and we agreed. While we were at the dinner, I was really getting along with the other wife, and we found we had a lot in common. While we were laughing at a joke, she dropped her hand on my thigh and left it there. I chalked it up to her being a little wine tipsy, but nothing to panic about. The dinner winds down, and she turns to me and asks if we'd be going to the event later. What event? I asked. The pineapple event, she said, winking. Oh my God.
It's a contest.
I was confused, but said we'd consider it and asked where and what time. I told my husband when we got back to the cabin, and he decided it wouldn't be a bad idea to hang out, especially since we'd had such a fun dinner with them. So we get ready and headed over to the designated spot, which was in another person's cabin. They also had the same upside-down pineapple decal on their door, something I noted as a funny coincidence that I pointed out to my husband. He laughed and we went inside. Our neighbor friends were so excited when they saw us, saying, "We knew you'd come. We had such a good feeling about you two."
People are going to come.
Okay. We'll keep you on, Gabe. We awkwardly laughed and just asked when the pineapple event would begin. You're the last group we were waiting on, she said, before leaning in and kissing me in front of her husband and my husband. Whoa, I said, breaking the kiss. That's not something I expected to happen. Whoa, what? Huh?
She goes, your lips just touched mine.
Oh, my.
And she's like, oh, sorry, let me get the pineapple.
She didn't respond, but giggled before she and her husband began making out in front of us. I looked around and saw that all the other couples had started making out too. We are just in it. Okay. And then it started to click. A fact I'd conveniently forgotten, upside down pineapples were how swingers told other swingers they were around. Babe, I think they think we're swingers. Yeah, I'm gathering that. A couple next to us began derobing, and they're making out with new people. I figured we should probably get out of there quickly unless we fancied being thrown into the grope train.
Choo-choo.
While everyone was getting freaky, we made a quick exit. I saw my neighbors the next day, and they asked where we had disappeared to last night. And I said, yeah, I guess that really just wasn't my thing. Oh, why did you compliment the pineapple then? She asked, like I was an idiot. Thought it was funny, didn't realize what it meant. God, such a tease, she complained. See, I feel like these swingers are kind of mean swingers. And then she and her husband avoided us for the remainder of the cruise. So, lesson learned. Our next story is from Kelly, and it's, what behavior did your parents have that you've made a point to avoid as an adult, from the original deck? My mom had a secret with our neighbor that ended up humiliating all of us. I grew up in a pretty bland suburb in the 1980s, the kind of place with cul-de-sacs and backyard barbecues. My parents were friendly with the couple next door. They often came over for cookouts and even had a kid my age. At first, I didn't notice how much my mom seemed to hang out with Bob, the husband from next door, anytime they were around. But I did notice that my own parents always seemed to be fighting. My brother and I started wondering if and when they'd get divorced, but we had no idea my mom was sleeping with Bob.
Woo!
Classic.
Called it.
Bob the Builder, can he fix it? Bob the
Can he ruin this divorce?
Yeah.
Or this marriage?
Can we put this house back together?
No! Then I came home from school one day, and at first I thought the house was empty, but then I heard a noise upstairs. Gross!
No. Canon event.
I went to check my parents' room, but the door was locked. I called out to my mom, and she said, "I'm busy, go downstairs." I thought it was weird, but went downstairs to get a snack and watch some cartoons. A little while later, I saw Bob trying to sneak out of our house. What was he doing here? I asked my mom. She said, nothing, just trying to help me fix something upstairs. Don't worry about it. Ooh, can he fix it?
Boom! Bob the Builder, can't he fix it?
Now I was suspicious. I felt like she was acting weird and wondered if she was lying. I told my brother later that night, and he was the first to say, "Do you think they're cheating together?" I shrugged, still a little young to even understand that idea, and tried to put it out of my mind. A few weeks later, my brother and I were playing outside when we saw Sherry, the wife from next door, angrily stomp over to our door and start ringing the bell, yelling, "Get out here, Donna. I know you're f***ing my husband."
As a kid, I'd have had him a popcorn.
Are we going to have a front yard brawl?
Oh, please.
I saw Bob come out after Sherry, trying to get her to stop the display, but she was making a scene and half the neighborhood was watching. My mom did not come to the door, but my brother and I were dying from embarrassment. We watched Bob corral Sherry back to their house, her screaming at him that he is a cheater and she wants a divorce. My brother and I had no idea what to do, but our parents sat us down that night and told us they were getting a divorce. It's like, oh, I wonder why.
Uno reverse.
My brother and I were actually glad they were splitting up. We were too embarrassed to play outside after all the drama and relieved this meant we'd be moving. It also meant changing schools, luckily, which was good news for us since rumors of my mom's affair spread like wildfire and we were getting teased about it by kids in our classes.
Can you imagine bullying a kid? Hey, your mom your neighbor. How do you even make fun of a kid for that?
So mean. You're just like, yeah. After my parents split up, Bob continued to come over to our new house late at night and call our house. But he and Sherry never actually got divorced as far as I know. I think he just kept cheating on her with my mom on and off for years. Sherry, get out of there.
Sherry, stand up. I was literally like, queen shit, divorce him, make him a public news. Like, I was so proud of her for making a scene.
The two of them never made anything official. They just continued to sneak around. My mom had other boyfriends between her on and off again flings with Bob, but nothing stuck. I suspect my mom still has an on-again, off-again affair going on with Bob to this day.
Why wouldn't they just get married? Or I guess, like,
I think
the
they
reason
must like
is
the drama.
Yeah, the fact that they can't have each other.
Yeah.
I am still embarrassed by her behavior to this day and would never put my kids in the position our mom put us in when we were growing up. The cheating was bad enough, but doing it with the guy right next door so everyone found out about it is so much worse. Our next story is from Claire, and it's describe the most annoying neighbor you've ever had from the original deck. My landlord knew things he shouldn't have. Then I found out why. I lived in an apartment complex that was owned by a family monopoly with a few complexes in my city. I was a downstairs neighbor, and the walls of this complex, as we realized, were incredibly thin. Still, I assumed that we would be fine to survive and exist as entities because we were paying rent to be there. The first week I was there, I accidentally dropped coffee on my way to work and was in a huge rush. So I texted my roommate and asked her if she could clean it for me, and I would do all the dishes for 2 weeks. I got an email blast from my complex later that day asking that all tenants be mindful this is a shared space and to be sure to clean up after ourselves. I said fair enough, I had spilled coffee in a communal area. Then, a few days later, I was smoking on my porch around 7 p.m. for about 15 minutes before going inside. The next day, another email blast went out that this wasn't a smoking area and everyone should be mindful and respectful of everyone else. I rolled my eyes, but still decided it was fair enough and not everyone would want to smell weed if they weren't into it. So I'd go on walks to smoke. I never considered how the management company was finding out about these things because I just assumed that maybe someone was complaining. Everything was fine until a few months in when my leasing agent I had met with to secure an apartment showed up knocking on my door asking if we could speak about conduct. I'm confused at first, but invited her inside. She proceeds to show me around 15 different snippets of videos where someone stood outside my apartment door and recorded me singing or talking in the middle of the day.
Okay, that's insane.
What, you're not allowed to sing? They're like, that's a rule in this complex.
She said, this is really disruptive.
She said nobody likes that. I was firstly freaked out because actually who was recording us like that? And then I was annoyed because it shouldn't have been an issue anyway. Since quiet hours don't start until 10 p.m. anyway, and I'm allowed to make noise for work during the day. I explained this to the leasing agent and she nodded before leaving. I noticed my upstairs neighbor had put a camera on their balcony that looked down towards our patio.
That's so creepy.
That's like illegal, right?
Yeah.
But I decided it wasn't a huge issue because we barely hung out there since the smoking complaint came through. Then one day around 2 p.m., I was rehearsing a song and I swear I felt a voice telling me to open the front door. As soon as I did, I saw my upstairs neighbor with her phone pointed to my door. She jumped and gave a small yelp when she saw me before scurrying back up the stairs.
That is so stupid.
That's so weird.
Keep going.
Then a few days after my roommate was trying to sell a chair and had left it on the grass outside the complex, which is very normal in Los Angeles, and a lot of people acquire free furniture like this. And that night we received another email blast about not leaving property outside. When we received a note on our door asking that we clear out the laundry lint trap, I lost my mind because I always clean it out, and how creepy it is for our neighbor to be watching and knowing when we do our laundry.
Is there anything you can do, like counter complain?
You could file like harassment against someone.
When it finally came time to move out, I was meeting with the landlord's daughter, and she asked if I'd ever heard a different unit arguing loudly. I said no, and then she showed me a recording a neighbor had taken outside someone's door where you could clearly hear them fighting. Since you're moving out, I can tell you, but Ina is like my little spy. She tells me anytime something happens. Why are you admitting
Yeah,
this?
that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Don't
crazy.
admit that.
Also, like, oh, did you hear anyone making noise? And then show them a video of a
And she's
different
like,
person's.
because I know.
Right? Because, like, what is the point of that? She showed her a
person-
different tenant's door.
Maybe like trying to get intel on like, by the way, have
She's
you like
like,
maybe let me
I'll give you that
my little
deposit back
spy.
if you tell me.
Right, if you tattle. As if I hadn't caught her filming me in the middle of the day. I informed her that while I think it's great to have someone keeping the apartment in order, that it was pushing the boundaries to have a camera pointed at our patio, monitor when we did laundry, and record any neighbors anytime she heard a noise she didn't like.
Yeah, lay it out for her. Put it down.
The landlord's daughter, looking mortified, claimed she had no idea Ina was taking it that far.
Bull-
You do.
Yeah, you got the
you
videos.
do.
Because the leasing agent showed up with the videos.
Yeah. But I definitely didn't believe her after she'd almost proudly admitted that Ina was her own personal spy.
Duh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And to that I say, I understand being considerate of your neighbors in an apartment complex, but if you want everything people do in their daily lives to fit into your routine, perhaps you should rent an accessory unit or a small house instead. It's not fair to implement your desires on everyone and punish them for violating rules they didn't know were there. Or rules that aren't real.
Yeah.
Our last story is from Kristen, and it's what's something you're still angry about from the original deck. My cat disappeared one day.
I would commit war crimes if anything happened to my cat.
Yeah, I used to live in an apartment complex on the ground floor, and my next door neighbor was this guy, Todd. Todd always gave me weird vibes, but I didn't think much of it. I also had an elderly cat at the time named Luna. Luna was a beautiful, long-haired calico, and I loved her so much. She would sit in the window to watch birds, and people passing by always stopped to look at her or point her out to whoever they were with. Then, one day, something happened to one of the pipes in the apartment above me, and the ceiling was leaking. My landlord called me at work and told me they would be sending maintenance people over to fix it. I usually tried to stay home with Luna if people were going to be coming into the apartment, but since I was already working, that wasn't going to happen.
I would tell the landlord, no, like, you're going to have to wait until I get
Yeah.
home. Like, no.
Yeah. I asked my boss if I could go home early, but it was the middle of a brunch rush, and he told me absolutely not. I decided it would be fine and reminded my landlord that I had a cat and the maintenance people needed to make sure the door was shut properly. I got home and the ceiling was fixed, but Luna was nowhere to be found.
Oh,
I would die. I
Murder.
would be so mad.
Murder.
So mad. I searched everywhere, but she was gone. I called my landlord freaking out, and he was completely unhelpful. Basically just told me he was sorry that had happened and that hopefully she would come home soon.
oh yeah, I'm sure you're sorry will bring me back
Yeah.
my precious
I
angel
will
baby.
live here for free now.
Yeah. I was distraught. I put bowls of treats, tuna, and food outside my apartment door, hoping she would come home when she got hungry that night. I also printed a ton of missing cat signs and hung them around the neighborhood as I searched for her and left letters for all of my neighbors letting them know to be on the lookout. 24 hours passed and I still hadn't found Luna. I was fearing the worst. She was 15 at the time, and while I was pretty sure she could fend for herself, she wasn't an outdoor cat and was probably terrified. Another day passed and still no sign of Luna. I was a complete wreck. I had called in sick to work and was running around the neighborhood with cat treats and tuna like a crazy woman. I wasn't going to give up hope, though. I went back to my apartment to see if maybe she was eating the food I had left out, and to my absolute surprise, I saw her, but not outside my door. Instead, she was lounging in the window in Todd's apartment. I figured he had found her and was keeping her until I returned, so I excitedly knocked on the door. She had already perked up at the sight of me and was pawing at the window.
Oh,
I was crying. I was so happy. Then Todd came to the door. "Thank you so much for finding Luna. I'll give you a reward. I'm so happy she's safe," I said. But to my surprise, he responded, "That's not Luna. That's my cat, Polly."
My microchip app says different, dumb.
"No, that's definitely Luna. I would recognize her anywhere. I adopted her months ago," he replied. "Then how come this is the first time I'm seeing her?" I shot back. "I guess you weren't paying attention," he replied angrily and started to shut the door. I was furious. There was no doubt in my mind that it was Luna. "I know that's Luna. I will call the police if you don't give her back to me now." "That's Polly. You can't steal my cat just because you lost yours," he yelled back at me and slammed the door in my face.
You need to do a classic Air Bud situation where you put the cat in the pavement and you see who she goes to.
Now I really lost it. I started banging on the door and was ready to call the cops when I remembered she had been microchipped. If I could get a scanner, I could prove she was mine. And as luck would have it, one of my friends worked at a rescue. I called her and asked if she had a scanner, and she said she did. I told her the situation, and she told me to call the cops and said she would also be there immediately.
Nice.
My friend came faster than the police and waited with me while I cried and screamed at Todd through the door. When the cops arrived, he reluctantly answered the door. They forced him to let my friend scan the chip, which proved she was actually Luna. He ended up getting arrested and had to pay a fine. I felt like he should have gone to prison for life, but the law disagreed.
Your Honor?
Your Honor, death penalty.
She goes, "I am not happy with the sentence, actually." "Okay, what would you prefer?" "The electric chair."
Yeah. I'd like to do it myself. Thank you.
Lethal injection.
I moved out once my lease was up and kept the closest eye on Luna for the rest of her life. I miss that girl so much.
Cat owners, dog owners, it's like, this is an extension of me.
This is my baby.
This is my child. And I mean, studies have proven that is the same level of compassion and love that you have towards your own child is what you have towards a pet. And so if you try to like get between, it's like, nah, dude, you don't understand.
You don't get to do that.
Will.
I will come for your soul.
That is it for Delve Deck Stories. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, you can like, subscribe, and check out some of our other videos. And if you have a story that you would like to share with us, you can go to share.delvedeck.com and we might read it on an episode.